structured and unstructured output as well. But the company's data, for example, if you're working with ITC or Tata or any of these companies, their data does not lie in a unstructured repository, but their transaction data stays in or lives in structured databases. So when we say we want to query some insights from structured databases, then how do we use GenAI for that? And that is going to be the theme of today's workshop. Okay. Remember, okay, I'm not sure how it went over there. Give me one moment. Yeah, I should be here. Yeah, so that's going to be the objective of today's workshop. Not sure how this got deleted. Yeah, and by the end of today's workshop, you should be able to get a good flavor of how do you connect OpenAI API LLM. That means large language model which works behind ChatGPT, which is owned by OpenAI, which is the company which is behind ChatGPT. How do you connect OpenAI's LLM to your structured data and use OpenAI's natural language processing power to get insights from your own data? Okay, so that's something that we will do by the end of the workshop today. And remember, guys, do not forget to subscribe to Ivy's YouTube channel so that you can get such more interesting tutorials on GenAI concepts and GenAI data science, MLOps, analytics concepts. Okay, so there are a lot of great tutorials available on Ivy Pro's YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button. Now, having said that, if you want to get connected with me as well, you can just search on Google Pratik Ivy, and the first link that you will get would be mine, and I'll be more than happy to be connected with you. So that's about that. Now, I'm going to share this sheet as well with everybody who's attending the workshop today, and feel free to ask questions in the chat window, and I'll be more than happy to answer. What I'll try and do is that I will try and demonstrate how these things will work together. Then I'll give you this sheet. It has all the things that you will need in order to replicate what we will do today. And let's see if I get some time today to make you do something as well during the class. So that's going to be the objective. Remember, Ivy Pro School has great courses on GenAI, AI, MLOps, data science, and data using cloud. So do feel free to inquire about those. All right. So these are the things that we will do today. Everybody knows about ChatGPT, including you, including me. But do you know that you can also use the model behind ChatGPT, the OpenAI's large language model, to use GenAI tools without writing a single line of code? That's something that we will do today. And then we will also talk about what is the difference between OpenAI API. I've used this word OpenAI API. OpenAI is the mother company behind ChatGPT. But what is the difference between OpenAI API versus ChatGPT? They're not the same. We'll talk about it. And how do you integrate Google Sheets? As simple as Google Sheets with OpenAI API. And then we will also demo. I'm also going to give you a demo of converting a business query to SQL query translation. We will use the query function Google Sheet to get the insights from structured data, and then we'll do some exercise if time permits, and then I'll open the floor for question and answer. All right, so here, this is what we will do: generate business insights from structured data using SQL and GenAI. The input will be a business query written in plain English, and output will be a data report created using SQL and GenAI. I already have a data set in fact, 3 different data sets in 3 different sheets here: cashier, orders, and order item. I'll show you those. And what are the things that you will need? The things that you will need, the tools that you will need is, of course, Google Sheet. I'm hoping that everybody has Google Sheet. If you do not, just Google for Google Sheets, and you'll be able to use your Gmail to open an account and start using Google Sheets. It's the Excel version by Google. So Google Sheets is the tool that we'll be using, but you could have actually used Excel. You could have used Python if you knew a little bit of Python. I took the liberty in assuming that many of you may not know Python. So that is the reason why I use the simplest tool possible, Google Sheet. But the same thing could be replicated in Python as well very easily. So you'll need Google Sheet. You will also need OpenAI API, which I'll tell you how to create one, the free version at least. And then you'll need one plugin for Google Sheet, which is GPT for Sheets extension or plugin or add-on. So we'll need these 3 tools in order to do what we want to do. So what are the steps? The first step is to add GPT for Sheets extension. Now what I'll do is I have already added it, but let me get rid of that so that I can show you how to re-add that very quickly. Should have clicked on the wrong one. So I'm going to uninstall this app for now, and then I'm going to demonstrate how to install it very, very quickly. It's very simple. Now, how do you install any extension in Google Sheet? The first thing that you do is that you go to extensions on the top, then you go to add-ons, then go to get add-on, and then click on, then search. So I'm searching for GPT for Sheets. There are quite a few of them, but this is the one that is one of my favorites. So I'm going to look for GPT for Sheets here. And then this is the second one. Look at the logo here, and then I click on it. And then I will install it. So of course, it asks for your Gmail because it's linked with Gmail. I'm using my company's account, and I'm just adding it. Of course, a lot of permissions that you'll have to give. Again, be careful if you're using the company's email account to do this. Now, once it's installed, let me cross this. If I go to extensions here, I should be able to see it over here. And now on the right hand side, it will start loading up. So that is the first thing, that add GPT for Sheets extension. And then the next thing that we'll do is that we'll create OpenAI API. You see, the reason why we need OpenAI API is, now what is an API? The full form of API is application processing interface. It's so many. I keep forgetting, although we use API, so I want to give you application programming interface. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, so API is what we will end up using. This API is like a window, it's like a gateway to another software. So whenever you want to push the data from one software to another software, you need a window, and that window is nothing but this application programming interface, or API. So it's a very commonly used term, API, whenever in the world of data pipeline, because we push the data from one platform to another quite frequently. So that's the reason why you'll keep hearing about API in the world of data pipeline. Now here, this is the GPT for Sheets plugin, or the extension that we just added in. So it'll come over here like this. Now, what you want to do is that you want to go to the the breadcrumb over here, the three dots, the three lines here, and you want to go to the API keys. Now, what happens is, when you want to connect Google Sheet with OpenAI API, which is the large language model window, so that you can send and exchange data from your Google Sheet to OpenAI API, to OpenAI large language model, you will require a private API key from OpenAI. Now, they do give, I think, up to $5 credit limit API to everybody. Okay, so I'll first help you figure out how do you create your private API, the secret API for yourself. And remember not to share it with the world, because you could be charged. Now, how do we do that? It's actually very simple. You go to Google and search for OpenAI API. And the first link that you'll get, or maybe the second link, go there, create a login. You'll have to create a login. It did not ask me for a login, but you'll have to create a login onto OpenAI API, OpenAI. And then once you have logged in, then you want to come to this interface. Let me try and show you. As I open this link, platform.openai. Now it'll come like this. You'll have to log in. Of course, you'll have to sign up first. You can sign up with your Google account if you wish. I've already signed up, so I just need to give my So essentially, once you have signed up, then you will be redirected. So let me go back now. So you'll be redirected to this page. Okay. Now, over in this page, it gives a very good explanation of how OpenAI works, and for the developers and whatnot. But I am going to go to on the left hand side over here, I'm looking for something called as API keys. So when I go over there, now this is where you can create your secret API key. Remember, do not share it with the world. Okay. When you click on the secret API key over here, when you click on this create new secret API key, it'll ask for a name to this API. You can give any name. Just remember whatever name you will give will come over here. And then click on create secret API. Once you do so, then it will show the API key, which will look like a long string. Okay. It'll show an API key, which will probably start with something like this and end with something like this. Now that is going to be your secret key. Remember to copy that and save it somewhere. I'm not going to display it on the screen because it's a public workshop, but just copy that because it will not show you again. So copy that API key, save it in a notepad or someplace, and remember, and because it won't show it again. It's not a big deal if you forget about it because you can again create a new API key and you can delete the previous API key. Okay, so that's how you create the API, a new secret API key once you've created a login with the OpenAI API platform. Okay, the link I will share it with everybody, but you can see the link over here as well. That is very important, guys. Through API transactions, companies tend to make money. So we have built in-house. I mean, we are building a lot of tools, a lot of AI, GenAI tools and platforms in Ivy Pro School as part of student projects and as part of our consulting assignments as well. One of the very, very recent full-fledged, full-stack AI platform that we've created is time to justice.ai. So, you can try it for free, no problem. It works like an Indian lawyer. It is trained, fine-tuned to work and behave exactly like an Indian lawyer. So you can type in your prompt, your question, and you can verbally ask the question as well, and then click on send, and then it gives you answer just like any other, just like an Indian lawyer. Now it won't give you answer unless it is actually convinced that you have asked the question properly, like a good Indian lawyer. Now, if you think it is exactly like ChatGPT, no, it is fine-tuned and trained to behave and give you answer exactly like a good expert Indian lawyer who typically end up charging you 2-3 lakhs an hour. And then plus it has a lot of micro features. You can download the text into a Word, you can print it as a PDF, you can copy and share it with the world. So you can do a lot of things as a lawyer or as a commoner. So you can try that. So again, for a platform like that, we actually pay OpenAI because we're using their API keys to exchange the data with their large language model. All right, so this API key is going to be very important because this will give you the ability to communicate with OpenAI's large language model. Now, once you have that API key, copy that, bring that, go back to Google Sheet where we are. Go to the go to the extension that you just downloaded. By mistake, I closed it. So go to that extension, GPT for Sheets, and then go to the 3 bars, the breadcrumbs on the top left-hand side over here, and go to the API keys. And that is where here, go ahead and put the API key that you would have created. Copy and paste the API key over here, and then save it. All right. Once you have done that, that's it. The role of GPT for Sheets for now is over. Close it. All right. Now, one small thing that you have to do. One small thing, and I've written that step. So we have added the OpenAI API to the GPT for Sheets. This 3 steps are done. 4th step is use the GPT and query. Now, before doing so, I'll just write one more, enable the GPT functions. And how do you do so? Go to extensions, then GPT for Sheets, and enable. If I go to extensions, GPT for Sheet, then enable GPT functions. What this will ensure is that GPT for Sheets is an extension and it has a lot of inbuilt functions in it. So when you enable it, then you will be able to use them. So when it comes to enable, it takes a few seconds, because it's exchanging data with its own server. Okay, click on continue. And if there is a terms and condition thing that comes as a prompt, do feel free to accept it. Okay. Now, of course, we are using the free version of GPT for Sheets, so you get 10 cents as the credit to try. But it's still enough to try all the features, okay, that we want to try. All right. Now let's go to the fourth step. Use the GPT, use the GPT and query function to convert plain English query to a SQL query. Let me first demonstrate this to you, then I'll show you how it is working. Let me go to the sheet which says cashier over here. So when I go to the sheet which says cashier, here on the left hand side, I've got a data set. Now, this is a structured data set. The reason why I'm calling it as a structured data set is that it has predefined 3 columns, and for every column, there is data given. Okay, so it's a pretty structured data. So it's a table, right? This kind of a structured data is normally stored in enterprise databases. And that is where you use structured query language, SQL, to query the data. But now we are saying in today's workshop that, hey, we are not going to be worried about writing our SQL query ourselves. We're also not going to be worried about taking this data into Chat GPT and then asking Chat GPT to write the SQL query for us. We want to do all of that in this Google Sheet interface itself. All right, let me zoom out a little bit so that you can see a few things here. Now, give me a moment. Let me see why the GPT function is not getting recognized. One moment. GPT is here, should be working. Uh, Let me just quickly try in another sheet. It happens at times because originally this file was created by one of my colleagues, so maybe that is creating the issue. Just give me a moment. Let's take this data into the I will, Cyan. Just give me a moment. I will show you that. It is loading the data, so it's a good news. It's loading the data, and it takes a few seconds to load the data because through that API, what is happening is through that API call, it is sending this business question into OpenAI's large language model using the API that we have given, using that window that we have given, and then it is retrieving the SQL query from OpenAI's large language model, and then we will use that output to get the data out. So give me a moment. The AI world is never perfect, guys. Let me bring these questions as well over here. Yeah, it gave the output. Okay. Now it's working. Okay, I'll tell you where we went. Okay, so we have the questions. Let me first demonstrate this on this sheet here. Remove the grid line. Okay, so let me show you what I wanted to show you here. And then we will implement this as well. Now, in order to do so, what we have to do is a very, very simple step. If you notice, this is a business query. It is a English statement. Give me the average discount amount given by each cashier. So if you notice here, there are multiple cashiers here. There are multiple cashiers, there are multiple department names, and different cashiers are giving different discount based on the department or based on some other parameter, right? Now here, what is happening is this is throwing you the SQL statement. So if you've ever worked with SQL, this is how the SQL statement more or less looks like. This is a SQL version of the Google Sheet. I mean, Google Sheet version of SQL actually. But yeah, very, very similar to any other SQL statement. So if you notice, this is the business question. This is what is given by an end user who doesn't have any understanding of SQL at all, SQL at all. What the system is doing, I mean, what are through the power of GenAI, what we are doing is that we're taking this input, which is a text input, converting that into a SQL. Okay, and then using a function, a query function that is available in Google Sheet, we are then querying this structured table and getting this output here. So this is the entire pipeline. If I were to draw it for you, then it would look something like this. It's pretty interesting if you look at it. It's very simple as well, drastically simple. So if you notice, this is the business query that is given in plain English. This is your text input that we are taking, and through the API, we are sending it to large language model. Which large language model? OpenAI large language model, but you could have used Google's as well, doesn't matter. And then this, we are asking this large language model to convert this into an SQL script. And then this is sending us the SQL script back to our Google Sheet. So business query, this is where Google Sheet is. So from this Google Sheet, using that GPT for Sheets plugin or extension, we're sending this through this API, we're sending it to OpenAI API. And then this is again sending it back through API, again through API, through the same API to Google Sheet again. It's coming back to us. And then when it comes back to us, then we use the query function. We are using the query function. This query function is a function which is inbuilt into Google Sheet. It's not a GPT function. It's not a function which is used by that extension that we were using. That that GPT function that we were using, that was part of the extension that we installed. But this query function is an inbuilt function of Google Sheet, and we are using that query function over here, and we are converting. And this is where we are taking the SQL query and we are running it into this data file. So let me show you how all of this is happening. So if you notice here, we have used a GPT function. We have concatenated, we have, of course, given through prompt engineering. We have defined a prompt here. I'll tell you that prompt as well. We are sending the schema or the structure of this table. That means what are the fields, what are the data types of the fields. Cashier ID is integer, department name is text, discount is integer. We are sending that information to OpenAI through this API, and then we are asking OpenAI API to give us the SQL query which we could run on Google Sheets using the query function. So that's what we are doing over here. So if you notice here, it's a very simple function that we're doing. Query A to C. A to C is A column to C column. This is where the data set is using. So if you notice the structure of this, using the query, which query? Using this query, which says select A meaning the first column, A, and then find the average of C, find the average of discount, group by A. So we have grouped the data by A, that means for every cashier ID, because here we said, give me the average discount amount for each cashier. So we're grouping the data by each cashier. And then we are ordering, you can't see order here, but it's order by average of C, that means order by this column in descending order. So this ABC is the column label, okay? In Google Sheets query, this is how we write it. We don't write the column headers, but we actually write the column labels. Again, you don't have to go to the technicalities of this, because the idea is that this query is coming from ChatGPT. But yeah, of course, you must be inquisitive, and SQL is a very, very important language. I have done a lot of tutorials and a lot of case study based workshop, which is available on Ivy Pro's YouTube channel on SQL itself. So if you're completely beginner on SQL, if you have absolutely no idea about SQL, you must watch some of those interesting case studies that I've covered from scratch. So I've used some industry case studies to explain you how you can start working with SQL, and we will leave the links to some of those SQL based workshops as well from Ivy Pro's YouTube channel, and the description of this YouTube video as well at the end of the once it is loaded onto IB Pro's YouTube channel. But yeah, do watch it if you're very new to SQL, so it'll give you a quick complete flavor. So yeah, so here API is like a window again. So the question that Sayan has asked is, what is the role of API? API is the window which is connecting Google Sheet with OpenAI's LLM. This business query that we wrote here, give me the average discount amount given by each customer or each cashier. This business query is sent to the OpenAI LLM through this API using a function that we wrote over here, GPT, using this function GPT. All right. So now that I've given you the demonstration, let me explain you the steps one by one. Let me go to this sheet first. In this sheet, we had discussed the steps. So we are now going to use the GPT function, which is the function of this extension that we added, GPT for Sheets, and then query function, which is the function of Google Sheet to do what we want to achieve. So here, this is the business question. And the business question can be anything, of course, from this data set. There are a lot of business questions that I've given over here that you can try as well. We'll try a few of them. Now, this is where we are writing the GPT function. Now, the GPT function is a very simple function. If you notice, GPT submits a prompt. It says submits a prompt to GPT and returns the completion. Submits a prompt to GPT. So if you look at the GPT function, now this GPT function is available on Google Sheet only when you add that extension that we just added, Google GPT for Sheet, and you enable the functions. If you do not do so, then it will not come. Now, let's say here I give a very simple prompt. I'm just giving a very simple prompt here. If I write, who was the founding father of independent India? Right? This is the this is the prompt that I want to send to the OpenAI LLM. Now, we could have gone to ChatGPT and asked this question very easily, but now I'm just demonstrating that you can actually do that from within Google Sheet as well through that GPT for Sheets extension. So what this will do is that because we're connected through that API, so it is going to take this prompt into the LLM, OpenAI's large language model, and give you the response which will come from there. So of course, it takes a couple of seconds to get the response because it's going through the API. Now, the founding father of independence is considered to be Mr. Nehru, and so on and so forth, right? So this is a very simple function which takes the prompt, takes it to OpenAI LLM through that API and gives you the response. Does that answer your question, Sayan? Does that answer your question, Sayan? What is the role of API? Yeah. All right. Let me put my chart. Yeah. Okay. Now, we are using the same function just slightly differently. How are we using it slightly differently is when I come to this here where I'm writing the SQL query, if you notice, I've written what I have to do is I have to send a prompt to OpenAI LLM. And the prompt should say something to the effect that, hey, please take this business query, convert this into a SQL query, which can be used in Google Sheet. And my data set description is this. My data set schema or structure is this, that it contains 3 columns. You don't have to give the entire data. Don't give the entire data. You'll end up using all your credits of tokens that you have. What you want to do is that you want to just give the description of the fields of the data as part of the prompt, okay? And then tell or ask GPT to convert this plain English into a SQL query, considering this data. So that's exactly what I have done over here. Of course, I've used a little bit of craft to concatenate the prompt. To frame the prompt, I've used the concatenate function. So this concatenate function, which is part of the Google Sheet, merges the string. So what I've done is that use a given data in A to C column, A to C column, and the columns are cashier, and the data type is integer, cash department name, which is char, discount, which is integer. Write the Google Sheet query function SQL that should run in Google Sheet for the user business query in English, and which is given in F1. F1 is the cell where the user has given the prompt, or the business question, right? And then again, comma, because I'm using concatenate, so it'll merge this. Just give the select onwards inside the query function using the query names as ABCD, using the column names as ABCD. Because as I said, the proper SQL would actually have given the column names as cashier underscore ID, department underscore name, and discount. But the way the query function in Google Sheet works is that it requires the labels of the columns and not the actual column names. That is the reason why I've given this extra prompt as part of my overall prompt. And don't give the entire query function. Here's an example. I've given the example as well. Please consider the column headers as ABCD, writing the query and strictly, not the column names headers. Please follow this rule strictly. Because, when I was trying this, at times, not all the time, but at times it used to give cashier ID and department name and the discount instead of giving ABC. And that was creating a problem. So that's the reason why I added a few extra instructions to refine the prompt. So this is called as prompt engineering. You work with it by hit and try a little bit, right? So this GPT function will take this prompt, send it to OpenAI LLM through API, and will give us the SQL query. And that is what exactly happening. That is exactly what is happening over here. And it is giving the query here. And over here, where I say answer comes below, what I have done here is very, very simple thing. I have written that query. The query function is a very simple function. So query, this is the data, this is my data A to C, comma the query. The query is already over here, right? And this comma header, if you want to include the header, but it's fine, right? So this gives you the data. Now the best part is if I change the query, here I asked give me the average discount amount given by each customer. So it give me that. Now if I give a maybe simple query, give me the total count of cashiers. This is a very simple query. The moment I do so, it is running this. It gives me the query, takes that query, SQL query, into the query function and gives you the total of count of cashier ID. Very interesting, isn't it? Now you can try with a lot of other business questions as well. Of course, the business question should be framed considering the column that we have in our hand. For some of the questions, it may not work. So for example, here it has given from, it's just random. You have to live with it if you're using the free version of this, or you refine the prompt a little bit further to get more accurate answer. Most of the time, I've tried it. Most of the time, it'll give you the accurate answer, but at times, because it's Gen AI, okay, it is supposed to give you some wrong data as well, okay. It is accurate, but it is not 100% accurate. So here, it gives you show the count of cashier of each department. So it's showing how many cashiers are there in each department, which is kind of cool. You're not writing SQL statement by yourself. You're actually behaving like a non-tech business user who wants some reports to be created on the data so that he can make decisions, right? So this is how it is functioning. Now, I open the floor for questions. Any question that you guys have? Otherwise, I'm going to give you something to try. Any questions, guys? Feel free to ask questions, guys. Rishabh's question is, will the GPT automatically select the required cells after joining the extension? I mean, where is the question, where to put the answer? Rishabh, if you notice here, Rishabh, what we have done here is a very simple thing. This is the question. F column first row, F1 is where I've written the business question, isn't it? Now, F2 is where I have used the GPT function to build the prompt. So if you notice here, this is the F2 columns, F2 cell. F2 has equals to GPT, which is the function which will help me send the prompt to OpenAI LLM. Concatenate, we have concatenated the prompt, we are framing the prompt essentially, and then we're also using what is there in F1. If you notice, in the middle of it, I have F1 as well here, right? So I've concatenated this prompt with F1, which is this, and then it is sending this as a complete prompt to OpenAI LLM through the API, and it's giving you back the SQL query because that's what I've given as an instruction. Rishabh. So the query is coming back over here where I wrote that GPT function. And the answer here, the reason why the answer is coming over here is because I have written the query function here. Suppose if I had written the answer, suppose if I had written the query function here, query A to C, comma, and this is the query. So it would have given the answer over here. Does that make sense, Rishabh? Science question is, can you please show the how to put the API link to in GPT extension after get the link? Yes, I can. So when you go to extensions, when you go to GPT for Sheets, when you open it, on the right hand side of the screen, it will open, and then it just takes a couple of seconds to actually open because it connects with its own server. See here, yeah. So these are three horizontal lines. You click on it, and then you will find API keys over here. When you click on it, then you will find OpenAI API key. Do not put it into the OpenAI organization ID because you don't have it. You put the API key over here. This is where you put your individual API key and save it. Did you find it, Sayan? Now, while he tries that, Abhishek's question is a very relevant question. Can we use two tables in the prompt like in joins? Technically, yes, you can. But in general, Google Sheets query is kind of notorious when it comes to multiple tables. I have tried it with joins. I didn't want to make the workshop today very technical around that. But in that case, you'll have to put the data files into different sheets, and then you have to use a little bit of array function within Google Sheet. Okay. So yeah, technically yes, you can. Absolutely. But if you really want to do such things, then I would rather use Python, do the same operation. That means use the Python as the wrapper. Like here we are using Google Sheet with that GPT for Sheets extension. But in Python, you can easily write such the thing that GPT is doing, which is essentially GPT for Sheets is doing, which is essentially sending the prompt and giving the reply from OpenAI LLM in GPT in Excel. Sorry, in Python, it is just a few lines of code. Let me show you how easy. I don't want to go too much details into Python, but I'll just show you the line of code that is required to connect with OpenAI API, OpenAI AI LLM through API keys if you have one. Especially if you know if you know a little bit of Python, it's actually pretty easy to do. Yeah. See, I mean, this API key is old API key, so even if you see, it's not a problem. So it's a very simple thing, that's it. This is the line of code which connects you to OpenAI LLM through API. So it's actually, what I'm trying to say is that here I've used Google Sheet as the wrapper to make it very, 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 very simple and friendly to any non-techie as well to use the GenAI tools. So otherwise, if you know a little bit of Python code, you can easily do it in Python without really having any extensions like GPT for Sheets. Can we add GPT with Jupyter or Ask. But again, there are a lot of functions already given by OpenAI and by each one of these LLMs, especially in Python and R. So you don't really need a library. The moment the moment you import the library. For example, here I've imported OpenAI, and hence I'm able to use these functions. So to the answer to your question is, of course you can, but whether they are called as GPT, of course it depends upon the function. But yeah, you have equivalent of them because you import them. What else? What else are your queries? What else? Okay, here's the thing, guys. Let's utilize this time. By the way, let me take a couple of minutes here, guys. Okay. Recently, we launched a program with IIT Guwahati on data science, AI, Gen AI, ML. We also launched a dedicated program with IIT Guwahati on Gen AI itself. Okay, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but it's a very nicely designed program endorsed by IIT Guwahati's professors, as well as um, you know we had industry experts from Microsoft and Google in our panel when we were designing that course. It's very nice. If you want to explore, if you want to know anything about it, do feel free to reach out to me, or you can go to Ivy's website as well, and you can find the link to that IIT data science with AI program, as well as just a dedicated program on Gen AI. Now, of course, today's workshop is a very simple. The idea of today's workshop is to introduce you to the capability of LLMs using API, right? But as I said, right, we have actually created a startup where we are raising funds, which is being used by thousands of users just by doing what I just showed you, more or less. Of course, we did quite a bit of extra here. We fine-tuned this model with Indian laws and cases and whatnot, and we did a lot of other things, and of course, we built this entire product suite as well. But still, the brain behind this is very simple brain, which is to be able to use the ability. I mean, to know to have the ability of using the LLMs using API. It's a very simple thing, yeah. But of course, in the course, we go much beyond that. We go into private LLMs. We go into building LLMs as well. So yeah, okay. So do check it out, guys. Okay, it's with IIT Guwahati. You of course get an advanced executive certificate as well along with that. But more than that, it's a great career option for anybody who has any interest in the world of data and AI. Very interesting. So just to revise what we did, guys. Just to revise what we did. What we did is very simple. We added GPT for Sheets extension by go to extension, by add-on, and we looked for GPT for Sheets. That was required so that we could send the prompt from Google Sheet directly to OpenAI through API. Then we created an OpenAI API. How did we do so? So we went to the this website, platform.openai.com, and then we navigated to OpenAI, and then we created our own profile using any email ID, and then we went to API keys over here, and then we created a secret API for ourselves. We copied it, we saved it because it shows only one time somewhere safe. Do not save it, do not share it with the world. You get only $5 credit. Okay. Then we added this OpenAI API to the to the GPT for Sheets extension, like how I just had shown a few minutes ago as well. And then we enabled the GPT function. That was also an important step by going and enabling the GPT function. If you don't do so, then you'll not be able to use the GPT function. And then we use the GPT function and Google Sheets query function to convert the plain English query to SQL query. And that's what we had done over here. The business question was given over here. We use the GPT function to concatenate this with a little bit of prompt engineering. And then the answer came here using the simple query function, which is already available in Google Sheets. Now, let's do one exercise. We still have a few minutes remaining. Let me, unfortunately, this is not working. So let me bring one of the inventory data here. Control C, Control V. I don't like the grid lines, so let me remove the grid lines. And then here, the business questions are given. Copy all of that from F1. Maybe I copied the wrong data. Let me go back here. Yeah, I did not copy completely. Forgot. Mistake. Let me copy this entire thing. Put it over here. Now it should work. Now it's working. You can see it's working. So now this is your order. Leave it as orders. Now I'm going to share it with you all. Of course, I'm going to make it as view only, but you can definitely try this. So you're not going to change anything in this sheet. Let this be your guiding sheet, guys. Yeah. Now, do give it a try. I put it in the chat window as well. Go ahead and open this. And if any of you want to share the screen, Sign, do you want to share your screen and show me? I'll show you how to do what we just did. Sign. Or any of you. Any of you would like to do it? Rishabh, do you want to do it? Okay, you guys are using mobile phones. Okay, all right. Garvit is doing it. Very nice, Garvit. Can you zoom a little bit, Garvit? Just way too small. So Garvit, do this. Go to on the top where it says menu, and sorry, on the file, go to file. Yeah, go to file, make a copy. Yeah, make a copy so that you'll be able to run it. Now this is going to be a personal copy. I'm not sure if you're sharing everything, but yeah, I mean the idea is, in the interest of time, idea is, Garvit, very simple. Where it says business query, there you can try and ask some business questions. Again, just a little bit of a disclaimer here. It works most of the time. Okay, I want to say more than 95% of the time it works. 5% of the time it'll give you the answer, but it may not be in the SQL format that Google Sheets query function expects it in. So that is the only caveat, and that's where the real prompt engineering will come to the picture. Okay, but yeah, You just have to give the business question in F1 and let the magic happen. And that's what is the way it is designed. So guys, just to summarize, we have seen a very powerful application of GenAI, which is to be able to analyze structured data residing in databases using GenAI without writing a single line of code. Normally this operation is done using SQL, but here we have assumed that we don't even know SQL at all. And what we did is we use the power of OpenAI's LLM using API keys, right, from within Google Sheet without writing a single line of formula, without writing a single line of code. And we converted the business question to SQL query and got the report in the way that we wanted. All right, guys. As I said at the beginning of the workshop, if you want to be connected with me, do connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to accept the request from anybody and everybody whoever reaches out to me. And in order to find my LinkedIn request, a LinkedIn handle, you just search for Pratik Ivy. The first link that you will get on Google will be my link, and I'll be more than happy to be connected with you all. Plus, as I said, don't forget to subscribe to Ivy's YouTube channel, because today was just an introduction to GenAI, but you'll find a lot of interesting free tutorials by industry experts on Ivy Pro's YouTube channel, including very detailed step-by-step tutorial on SQL as well as Python as well as GenAI, all for free. All right, and feel free to reach out to me for any technical questions, guys. Thanks a lot. Do check out that IIT GenAI program on Ivy Pro's website, IIT GenAI as well as Data Science and AI program. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye, everybody.